that time again. Hey everyone, Templar74 here with another video, and today's video is going to be one of my favorite videos to do out of the entire year, and that is my annual hashtag AskTemplar74 mid-year Q&A for 2024. I look forward to answering your questions as I elaborate in every Q&A video. I love doing these videos because they allow me to interact with you guys more than what I normally get to interact with you on a daily basis. But I'm rambling, and we got some questions to get to, so at risk of further rambling, let's get into it. All right, first up we have Jessica Friedman, and you had 3 questions. Your first one is, would I like to see a reboot of the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Series with the original gang? Do you think we will see Ash return in Pokemon Horizons one day? And would you like to see a Sailor Moon reboot? And about Rennie leading the new Sailor Moons. First of all, I want to address the last one. I've never seen Sailor Moon, have no interest in it at all, to be honest with you. My other half, Jess, though, she's really big into it. That's like one of her shows, one of her fortes. So I would probably have to have her explain that question to me to even kind of get a comprehension of what that means. With that said, though, so that one I have no opinion one way or another. As far as the other 2 questions, Yu-Gi-Oh! Reboot, I really don't think it's necessary. I usually have a disdain for reboots as a whole. With very few exceptions, reboots really don't do their original shows justice, in my opinion. Now, don't get me wrong, there are exceptions to that, but for the most part, that's how I feel about reboots. And with Dark Side of Dimensions and the manga, there's really no need to elaborate more in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Story, in my opinion. We pretty much know what everybody's been up to after the series ends. So, yeah, to answer your question, no, I probably wouldn't like to see that. When you do something really well, there's just no reason to dig it up and try again to rewrite and reinvent the wheel, in my opinion. And then your third question, as far as Ash returning in Pokemon Horizons, I doubt that we'll see that happen as like a big thing. If he does show up, it would probably just be for like one episode, and it'd probably be more towards the series end, in my opinion. And that's if we even see him at all. I think right now they're trying to flush out and emphasize that this is a new generation of Pokemon, new story, all its own, Ash no involvement at all, which honestly I'm kind of cool with. Pokemon Horizons has been one of the more enjoyable Pokemon series in a long time for me, in my opinion, but bringing Ash in for like a cameo towards the end of the series, it'd be cool, I guess, for some people. Really necessary? Not really, in my opinion, but who knows? That's just my opinion on that. So anyway, Jessica, those were my answers to your questions, and I hope you have an amazing day and a great rest of 2024. All right, next up we have Arturo Sanchez, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. You wish me well at the beginning of 2024, same to you. Anyway, your 3 questions. 1, if you would go to a convention, which celebrity you want to meet first? It depends on the convention, to be honest with you, because if we're talking like a Comic-Con or an anime convention, if they have any, like a Dan Green or like Dan Green would probably be the first one that would come to my mind. Of course, we could also meet the real Kaiba, but that would be that for that section. If it were to be like a movie convention, really the only one that I'd have any interest in even attempting to go to would be a Star Wars convention, but I would probably only go if like a Hayden Christensen or like a Natalie Portman were at it. Other than that, probably not. Those would be my options for that one. Your second question would be, which essay... Forgive me, my phone just went off. Anyway, your second question would be, which SAO OST you like to listen to on repeat, if too many, at least list 3. I would probably say Swordland, Survive the Swordland, and then probably 2 tracks from SAO Alicization. I forget the title of the one that plays at the very end when they're fighting the creature in space. That one's pretty good, and I listen to that one on repeat. In fact, that's actually one of the ringtones on my phone. And then probably the third one would be the Subtleizer theme. Those are just some of my top tier SAO soundtracks that I listen to on repeat. And then third, one moment in TV movie that makes you say, oh my god. There are a lot of them, to be honest with you. Probably the most recent one would be the revelation that we got in Yu-Gi-Oh! Go Rush with Yuumu. But there have also been times like at the end of Arc 5, for instance, but not in a good way, unfortunately. There have just been a lot to list, to be honest with you, and too many that I'm probably not even thinking of. Those are just 2 of the highlights that, for whatever reason, stick out in my opinion. So those are just my answers to your questions, and I hope, Arturio, that you have a great day and a awesome 2024. And again, I apologize for the brief interruption. All right, next up we have Jethawk. And Jethawk, your 3 questions are: 1, not in terms of fiction, but do you think we will ever see a female protagonist in the new Yu-Gi-Oh! Series? 2, do you have any collectibles of Pokemon such as plushies, toys, etc.? And 3, if there are any new Pokemon games with a new type like Fairy, what type of element for Pokemon you want that hasn't been made yet? For example, I picked Light type because they're really good against Dark type, but they're weak against Rock type, and they're super effective against Electric type. So number 1, in terms of not fiction, do I think we'll ever see a female protagonist in Yu-Gi-Oh? I honestly think there's a pretty good chance of it happening. Yu-Gi-Oh has been kind of dipping its toes in that direction with Yuumu in this series that we're in right now, although the main protagonist is mostly Yuhi and Udius. But I think that Yu-Gi-Oh is kind of dipping its toes in that direction, and especially now that we've seen Pokemon go that route, I think it's only a matter of time before Yu-Gi-Oh does as well, which honestly, I'm all hyped for that and all for that if they do decide to go that route. As far as do I collect any collectibles of Pokemon such as plushies, toys, etc., mostly video games and cards, to be honest with you. Those are the big ones. I do have a couple of Pokemon plushes and statues, but my son kind of ran off with them. But overall, that's kind of the highlight of my Pokemon collection, is really just cards and video games, and I do enjoy the anime, but there is that. And then as far as new dynamic or new typing for Pokemon, I really like your idea of Light. I could really get behind that, and after reading that, I would agree with you that that would probably be the direction I would go, to be honest. I honestly hadn't given it any thought, but that's actually pretty cool. If not Light type, we could see like Divine type or Galaxy type. You know, they're doing this thing where they can pretty much make everything into a typing. And but yeah, Light typing would probably be the one that I would say right off the top of my head. But anyway, Jethawk, those were your questions. I hope I answered them well enough for you, and I hope you have a great day and an awesome rest of your 2024. All right, next up we have John Becca Smooth Hot Chocolate, which, by the way, epic name right off the top before I get too far into it. But anyway, your 3 questions for me. How's the baby doing? Are you looking to check out Luigi's Mansion for the Switch? And do you feel Liko is suited as a better protagonist or a Pokegirl? I'm only asking because that's been going around for some time on YouTube. So, first of all, how's the baby doing? Baby's doing great. strong, ornery as ever, just like me. Really proud. A little annoyed sometimes, but really proud. That's parenting for you. Your second question, am I looking to check out Luigi's Mansion 2 for the Switch? Not really. Jess has been bugging me that she's going to get it, but I'll probably end up playing it for S's and giggles when she gets it. But she's the one that's more excited for Luigi's Mansion than I am. But will I play it? Probably. Not gonna lie. And then your third question is, do I feel that Liko is better suited as a protagonist or a Pokegirl? Why can't she be both? I mean, she is the protagonist of Pokemon Horizons, her and Roy, but mostly Liko. And she is, by definition, a Pokegirl too, so why not both? I think she falls into both, but I think she's protagonist first, Pokegirl second. I think Dot is more of the Pokegirl in the Horizons trio, to be honest with you. But yeah, anyway, those are my thoughts on your questions, John. And I hope you have a great day and awesome 2024. And thanks for your questions. All right, next up we have Minor Mole. And you actually technically had 4, but your first one says it's not one of your 3 questions. You asked me what's up. Not much, just living the dream. Glad to finally have a break in some of the heat, to be honest. Anyway, your 3 questions were, 1, considering that Liko has been in the Pokemon anime spotlight for over a year now, who would you say you like better as a character between her and Ash? Part of me wants to go, well, there's 2 ways I look at it. Nostalgia, and my inner child is saying that Ash was better, but that's mostly because his story's concluded. Liko's story is still ongoing. A year in, I believe that Liko is a little bit better, and that could just be because it's fresh, it's new, and we're still diving into her character. We're exploring her character, which is making me lean towards Liko's being better established. But Ash is rounded and completely developed as a character. So there's 2 ways I look at it. If you're asking me as far as a character build out, I would say I like Liko better than Ash. But childhood nostalgia is going to say that Ash still is the top one. But there's still always room as Pokemon Horizons is ongoing. Your second question is, do you think the Pokemon Company should slow down the main series game releases, or at least the ones that introduce a new generation? 3 years is very fast and not enough time. I agree with you. I agree that 3 years is not enough, but I also understand that they are a corporation. They're trying to make money, but I also think that if they take too long at putting out a new generation and dragging their feet, that people lose interest, which I think it's money and that's kind of spurring them towards, we got to get a new game out every 3 years or a new generation out every 3 years. Do I think they could go and give an extra year? I don't mind waiting as long as it's worth the wait, if that makes sense. Yeah, do I think 3 years is a little bit rushed? Yes. But I also worry about what we get when we drag our feet on releasing new generations. But again, those are just kind of my thoughts on it. But I also understand they are a business and they're out to make money for their shareholders as well. But there is such a thing as milking a cash cow to death. And then number 3 is, what are your overall and specific thoughts on the recent Nintendo Direct? Okay, so funny story. The Jasmine actually asked me what my thoughts were on Twitter, and it took me so long to answer back to him because I was actually working the day the Direct came out, and I ended up pulling 48 hours. So by the time I got home, I had forgotten that the Direct had even happened, and I was so wiped out and exhausted, and then I got sick afterwards for a little while, and then, of course, my son got sick too while I was sick. Apparently, I brought some kind of bug home from work. Paramedic life goals. And so by the time everything kind of got back to normal and I was actually able to be like, oh my God, the Nintendo Direct happened, I actually had to read some of the highlights on Google because I didn't get a chance to see it in person. And by the time I actually remembered, oh crap, that was a thing and it actually happened, pretty much all the reactions were pretty much done and there really wasn't anything I could add. There were some interesting things in there, but overall, nothing that got my hype to 1,000 or up to 11, so to speak. But they weren't bad, but they weren't great either, in my opinion, if that makes sense. And again, that could just be that I was almost a week and a half late getting to the direct news, and I just kind of had to glean the highlights. But yeah, anyway, Minor Mole, I hope that answered your questions, and hope you have a awesome day and rest of your 2024. All right, next up we have Grenade Man 1. And your questions are, has this year so far been good to you? Your second question is for where the current Pokemon Monsters anime stands right now. What grade would you give it out of 100 currently? And third, what are your thoughts and predictions for Pokemon Legends AZ? Okay, so great questions. First up, how's your year been for you? Again, kind of living the dream. I've been sick a lot more this year than I have been in years past. I don't understand why. But again, it could just be everybody's immunity is kind of wearing off. Okay, and as for your second question as to where the current Pokemon anime stands now, what grade would you give it out of 100? I try not to rate series as they're ongoing because opinions can change wildly from episode to episode. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a great example of that, and that's the first one that comes to my mind. Right now, I would probably give it a 60 out of 100. I wouldn't say it's fantastic because it has had its drier episodes, but for the most part, it's done pretty well. It's been well-paced, development's been really good. Haven't had a whole lot of complaints. There have just been a couple of dry episodes here and there, but I tend not to rank ongoing series too high because, again, it can always change at the drop of a hat. And knowing my luck, I'll say, oh, well, it's a 70 or an 80 or a 90, and then we get like 4 or 5 episodes that are complete bombs. But, again, those are just my opinions on it. Maybe a little bit later on in Pokemon Journeys or Pokemon Horizons. I don't know why I said Journeys. My brain just kind of melted for a second. But as far as Pokemon Horizons go, I might give it a more definitive ranking towards the end of it. It's just right now we're maybe a half or a third of the way through it. If it goes for 150 episodes, just a little bit over that. There's always room for changes, but yeah, for right now, that's just kind of my thoughts. I just kind of rank it more middle of the road just because I don't want to set bars too high or too low. And then your third question, what are your thoughts and predictions for Legends AZ? I think that it's about time, to be honest with you. There was a lot of stuff in XY generation that was not elaborated on. My predictions as far as what we're going to see in Legends AZ is we're probably going to get more focus on AZ and the Ultimate Weapon and the Pokemon War. That's just kind of my opinion. That's kind of where the forums and the trailer were kind of pulling in that direction, in my opinion, if that makes sense. Which, fantastic. We got a Chronicles episode, I believe it was, that was just like less than 5 minutes, or maybe it was a little bit more, and it really didn't do it justice. We got to see AZ reunite with his long-lost Pokemon, but it's just, it needed more elaboration than what it got, sadly. And I really hope that this game gives it that justice, and quite honestly, if that's the way that it goes, I would really love to see a movie on it, to be honest with you. Kind of like what we got with Arceus and the Creation Trio. Again, just my thoughts on that. But I do think that's the direction that Legends AZ is going to go, quite honestly. So, Grenade Man, anyway, those were your questions. I hope I answered them, and I hope you have a great day and an awesome rest of your 2024. All right, and that concludes everybody's questions for the annual mid-year Q&A Ask Templar 74 for 2024. As always, everybody, and I say this in the intro and I always say it in the outro, these are truly some of my favorite videos to do out of the year because I get a chance to interact with all you more than what we normally do. Your questions are always well welcomed. Well wishes are well welcomed. I wish nothing but the best to all my fans and subscribers and followers. And yeah, again, I do want to emphasize these videos do mean a lot to me. And I look forward to the end of year Q&A for 2024 and getting to interact with all of you guys. As always, everybody, I hope that you have an amazing day, and the rest of 2024 wishes you well. And yeah, as always, everyone, Templar74 signing off. Have a great day, everybody, and I'll talk to you all next time. Goodbye, everybody.